Making our way through all the island's branches, we've now made it to my personal favorite, the Kirk Ronan branch. Located on the eastern side of Sodor, the branch is among the busiest on the island, up there with the Brendam and the Peel-Godred branch. As the name implies, the branch serves the industrial powerhouse of Kirk Ronan. Kirk Ronan is the island's southernmost town, and among its most important. Much of the town's businesses are located at the Kirk Ronan port, which is the largest port on the eastern side of the island, as well as the third busiest, behind Brendam and Tidmouth. However, one thing to consider is that in terms of area covered, the Kirk Ronan port, better known as the Wharf, is the single largest industrial center on the island. While the port itself may not be as busy as other facilities, the sheer amount of factories and other businesses served makes it one of Sodor's 3 financial centers, with the others located in Tidmouth and Peel-Godred. Some of the sites are operated by some of the island's most important businesses, including the obvious one there in the background. This is the Kirk Ronan Shipyard, a large shipbuilding facility. In terms of overall size, the Kirk Ronan Shipyard is the single largest manufacturing facility on Sodor, and among its most important. It is also the island's 3rd largest employer, with a workforce of over 7,000 people, many of which live in Kirk Ronan. The ships built here are known for being of high quality and rapid construction, but at the moment things are pretty quiet. 2 vessels from the Sodor Shipping Company are in for maintenance, as well as one of the Sudrian Navy's frigates, HMSS Vicarstown. Speaking of the Sudrian Navy, Kirk Ronan also contains the island's largest naval base, housing the Navy's largest vessels. This makes Kirk Ronan a fiercely well-defended area of Sodor. The Kirk Ronan port and the city itself is the main industry served by the Kirk Ronan branch, both for passenger transportation and for goods transportation. And it sees busy operations, so we better get into Trainspotting. But before we do so, let's quickly meet the branch's roster, which consists of 6 locomotives. For passenger services, we have Roger and Darwin. For goods operations, we have Robert and Lenny. And for shunting, odd jobs, and small passenger trains, we have Stanley and Noah. One thing to note though is that despite being officially assigned to separate duties, all of the branch's engines end up doing a bit of everything. Lenny will sometimes pull a passenger train, and Roger will sometimes pull a goods train. They can do it all. And in the case of the branch's busy nature, that's a very good thing. And yes, I should point out, the branch doesn't see the use of Neil, Clive and Matthew in modern times. They voluntarily retired back in the 1980s, after struggling to keep up with increasing work, largely due to their age and power. They are now part of the Sudrian Railway Museum, being the first Northwestern Railway engines to enter preservation. Now with the roster introduced, it's time to find out where to locate ourselves for this session. Of course, we want to see lots of action, so I think we'll place ourselves at the so-called Kirk Ronan Junction. This split determines whether or not an engine will go to the port or to the city's main station. Here, we'll see a bit of both. This land leads to the port, and this one leads to Kirk Ronan Central Station. Kirk Ronan Station is the line's terminus. It has 4 platforms and 4 terminal tracks, with half of the station covered by a large glass roof. Oh yeah, and what about that hole in the wall? Well, contrary to the TV show, this is actually not the result of Gordon crashing through the station wall. It's actually named after the Northwestern's then chief architect, Gordon Selvin, who designed the station. Originating from Kirk Ronan, Gordon became very attached to the station and viewed it as his greatest achievement of his career, since the station played a huge part in revitalizing Kirk Ronan, his home. So when he died in 1959, the hole was established as a memorial for his contributions to the railway, which expanded far beyond Kirk Ronan. This station is very busy, both accommodating for commuters to the port, as well as passengers from the Isle of Man ferry running between Kirk Ronan and Douglas on the Isle of Man. With all these factors added up, Kirk Ronan Station is among the busiest on the railway. Right, let's get this session in action. Approaching from down the line, just leaving the station, is Roger, who's pulling a normal passenger train. As with all the other branches, they use the standard Northwestern Railway push-pull sets. Roger is an interesting locomotive. He's actually one of a small amount of locomotives who were actually built on Sodor. Built by the Southern Mainland Railway back in the 1870s, he's among the oldest engines in use on the railway. During the first many years of the Northwestern Railway's existence, Roger wasn't actually on Sodor, but after being rediscovered by Topham in 1935, he was brought back to the island to assist the branch, his former home. And despite his age, he's still as fresh as he was when he was built, now handling passenger trains regularly and without trouble. A little later, we see Noah approaching with a train from Kelstorp Road, which is the Branchline's northern terminus. Now, Noah usually handles shunting duties around the port, but today most of that is handled by Stanley, so Noah is taking care of some passenger runs. Noah arrived to the branch just after World War II, when the railway needed some motor power urgently. By then, many of the North Staffordshire Railway locomotives, Noah's relatives, were being thrown away, with Noah now under risk of being as well. Topper managed to pick him up before it was too late, and had him sent to the branch, partly because it needed some more motive power, but mostly so Noah could reunite with Stanley. By then they hadn't seen each other for over 15 years, so it was a happy reunion. It's a bit of time before the train leaves, so Noah has some time to do small duties around the area. As Noah's entering the port area, we see Robert leave it with a goods train. Now, as you might remember, Robert didn't always work here. He originally worked on the Peel-Godward branch as a mixed traffic locomotive. However, when the line was electrified in the 1960s, its steam locomotives had to find work elsewhere. This, thankfully, didn't prove to be a problem at all. Robert ended up on the Kirk Ronan branch, much to the others' delight, as it needed a powerful locomotive to handle the branch's heavier goods trains. One thing to keep in mind though is that Robert isn't the only big engine on the branch. Here we see Darwin arrive at Kirk Ronan with a long passenger train. This is dedicated to the ferry services at Kirk Ronan, so the train is intentionally longer. Darwin is the most powerful locomotive on the branch, therefore being the one who carries out the heaviest work. He mostly operates passenger trains, but whenever heavy shipment is to be delivered to the shipyard, Darwin is usually the one who's assigned to take care of it. For now though, he'll remain at Kirk Ronan, waiting for the next wave of passengers to arrive. With Darwin now at Kirk Ronan, it's time for Noah to leave with his passenger train. Leaving the area, Noah passes Lenny, who arrives at Kirk Ronan with a goods train. Lenny is among the most reliable engines, not just on the branch, but the Northwestern Railway as a whole. He's one of the engines who's been the least in for maintenance, despite working as hard as he does. He's also incredibly versatile, so perhaps it's not such a bad thing after all. Look at that! Here we have the branch's poster boy, Stanley. As previously mentioned, Stanley is the main shunter at Kirk Ronan for today, both being in charge of the port and the station area. The station itself is rather quiet in comparison to the port, but there'll still be a bit of action in the other yard, as we can see right here. While Stanley moves some trucks around, we see Roger return with his passenger train. The branch's passenger trains don't actually run that far, with most only stopping at Kelstop Road. A few trains, especially the boat connections, will sometimes run all the way to Vicarstown. It's not often though. But the train that Darwin leaves Kirk Ronan with is actually one of these. He'll run all the way to Vicarstown. In the meantime, Roger can get some rest. Shortly after Darwin's departure, we see Robert return from Kelstop Road with a long goods train. It should be noted that pretty much all goods trains running on the branch is intended for the port in some sort of way. Rolf's Castle, the branch's middle station, doesn't actually have a loading platform for goods, since it was determined to be more efficient with lorries. So it's either towards the rest of the island via Kelstop Road, export via the port, or distribution amongst Kirk Ronan itself. And speaking of distribution, here's Lenny running with a train you likely didn't expect to run on the branch. Coal trains. But why? Is it coal that's been imported? Nope. It's coal that's been mined at the Kirk Ronan coal mine, just east of the port. While not as busy as the far larger Marsden Heights coal mine, it does produce a respectable amount of coal, which is largely for export. However, it has proven to be the best coal type for the Skarloey Railway, which is the main user on Sodor. Speaking of the Skarloey Railway, they do actually have a connection to the port, running relatively parallel to the branch all the way. For the Skarloey Railway, this is a very long journey, which is why it's only used for goods trains. But it is a great way for them to get their goods shipped. They have two locomotives dedicated to handling the goods trains all the way, Alex and Felicia. They don't run coal trains to or from Kirk Ronan though, since it's more efficient when transported by the Kirk Ronan branch. After sorting some trucks at the station, Stanley's ready to head back to the port to continue his shunting. But before he does so, he'll wait for Noah to arrive. Being old friends from the Sodor LMS days, any meeting is always appreciated. With no at the station, it's time for Roger to leave. And shortly after that, Stanley gets on his way. After running his large passenger train, Darwin can now have a small break from passenger runs in order to carry out a large goods train, which is headed to the shipyard. The train largely consists of treated steel from the Peel Godred Ironworks. Just after entering the port, we'll see Noah leave the station towards Kelsthorpe. Shortly after that, Robert will leave the port with yet another goods train. And I think I've spoken enough for now. So as usual, I'll leave the video running so you can see the branch in action without my narration. Enjoy!
you